Tonight, classic rock fans are remembering one of the founding members of the band, the Eagles.
The music world is reeling after Don Henley finally spoke out, and absolutely no one saw it coming. Henley's emotional statement after Randy Meisner's death stuns fans everywhere.
Randy Meisner died last night in Los Angeles.
Opens old wounds, raises new questions, and reveals long-held Eagles truths. What did Don Henley finally reveal that shocked everyone? Why did Randy Meisner's death affect Timothy B. Schmit only after a long period of silence? Join us as we break down what really happened to Randy Meisner after leaving the spotlight. Don Henley breaks his silence. On the day of his burial, Don Henley spoke up about Randy Meisner, and the music world shook with this news. For years, fans wondered if Henley would ever say anything about his old Eagles bandmate who died, with whom he has a complicated history. When he finally spoke, his words were more emotional and more surprising than anybody could have expected. Even those close to the band supposedly were surprised by the tone of the message. Henley's tribute was not the usual type. According to sources, he talked about memories that he had kept to himself over the decades. He spoke about Meisner's gift, as well as his personal issues with the deceased and the tension in the group. According to reports, Henley said Meisner had one of the most beautiful voices in rock history. And additionally, he made comments alluding to deep scars that the public didn't know about. He suggested that there is a lot more to their relationship than the fans actually know. Many claim that Henley's message showed he was sorry. It was reported that he spoke of instances where he wished things had changed before his friend passed away. He also mentioned that he felt the band could have stepped up more for Meisner during his hardest time. Henley said that fame and pressure, as well as their own personal issues, pulled them apart even while they were standing on the same stage. The honesty surprised many people who thought it would be a safe, polished tribute. Henley's response to Meisner's death raises questions fans have had for decades. What really happened behind the scenes between the original members? Why did Henley wait so long to talk about a man whose voice helped define the Eagles? The shocking confessions. Henley allegedly admitted that Meisner's anxiety and fear of performing high notes on stage caused serious friction within the band during the Hotel California tour. At the time, Henley and Glenn Frey pushed Meisner hard to keep performing despite his panic attacks, a conflict that eventually ended in a backstage blow-up in 1977. The band rarely spoke about that fight publicly, which is why Henley's sudden honesty stunned everyone. Sources close to the situation stated that Henley mentioned the night Meisner denied the opportunity to sing "Take It to the Limit," which ultimately became a huge hit and a source of great tension. According to the reports, Henley has accepted that he didn't fully understand how serious Meisner's fear was about failing in front of hundreds of people. Meisner quit the band not long after the pressure got too much for him. More recently, Henley allegedly confessed that losing him totally altered the chemistry of the Eagles. According to him, a band is successful through proper conduct, and people should never judge the people who can't remain sober through it all. Henley's statement sparked massive discussions among fans on how Meisner died in the days after his death. The band controversy news is old, and interviews and backstage stories of them are being re-examined. So are past performances. Would the band have preferred to leave this chapter in the past? Did it raise fresh questions about the way Randy Meisner was looked after at the height of the Eagles' success and after his exit? The Nebraska farm boy who fell in love with music. Randy Herman Meisner was born in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, a small farming community in a flat part of Nebraska, on March 8, 1946, as the flat plains dropped away to the horizon. He was the couple's second child and only son. Herman and Emily Meisner were hardworking farmers who sowed corn, beans, alfalfa, and sugar beets on ground belonging to the family for generations. Randy's grandparents were Volga Germans who brought their work ethic and musical traditions to America's heartland. Randy grew accustomed to the sound of his mother's singing as she worked around the house. Living on the farm was not easy, but he put in the work. His family often had no money for the fine luxuries of life, but they pushed through until everything changed for him on Sunday evening in the year 1956. He sat in front of the television watching Elvis Presley perform on The Ed Sullivan Show. That moment changed everything for him, and he decided he was going to be a musician. His grandfather was a violin teacher, so he had a bit of music in his blood, and he decided there and then as a young boy to become a rock and roll star. His parents were very supportive. They used their savings to buy him a guitar, and he took the lessons seriously. In high school, his teachers noticed his passion and tenacity, and one of them suggested he switch to playing bass guitar, which he did. Initially, he was drawn to the blues' sweet rhythm, but he noticed that playing bass was natural for him. As a teenager, he started playing in local bands and performed at high school dances and events in his community. Later on, he joined a group called The Dynamics. The name of the group was later changed to the Driving Dynamics. The Driving Dynamics often performed at places such as Little Moon Lake in Torrington, Wyoming. The band launched a 4-song EP in 1962, which featured Meisner on lead vocals on Sam Cooke's You Send Me. Meanwhile, Randy's personal life was speeding up equally with his professional life as he got married to his high school sweetheart named Jennifer Lee Barton in 1963 at the age of only 17. A few months later, their son Dana Scott Meisner was born, and before Randy even graduated from high school, he had a family to support. Becoming a father at such a young age was difficult for him, but it also made him more determined to become a professional in his field so he could make more money. He knew his small town would not offer him the opportunities he wanted, so he started thinking about moving to California, where the music scene was huge. In the mid-60s, he made the decision to leave Jennifer and their baby behind for a short while to chase his dreams. But even as Randy's musical ambitions pulled him toward California and fame, his heart remained torn between the spotlight and the simple life he'd left behind in Nebraska, a conflict that would define his entire career and ultimately lead to his departure from the very band he helped create. The struggles and setbacks. In his early years in Los Angeles, Randy Meisner had a difficult life. He continued to suffer disappointments and setbacks that would have broken many. He played bass, ranging from rhythm and blues groups to Dixieland bands, sending money home whenever possible to Jennifer and Dana, until he landed a steady job with the saxophonist and band leader Eddie Cleanhead Vinson. One of his first bands was The Poor, aptly named because that was about all they had been, and they were destined to be for some time, working Australia in little clubs, hoping for the big break that was never happening. Though the name was honest, it did not help their image or their chances in a field where image was everything. Despite the problems he faced, he was exceptional at playing bass, and his voice range made him stand out from the rest. And people that mattered in Hollywood started noticing him. His ability to hit high notes was so impressive that by the time he auditioned for a position at the Buffalo Springfield, he competed against another talented bassist, which was the first time their paths would ever cross. His performance was so outstanding that when some of the Buffalo Springfield members decided to leave and form a new group, they chose Randy Meisner as their bassist instead of Schmit. Randy's era with Poco should have been his big break. The band was at the forefront of the country rock thing taking place in LA in the late 60s. He helped a lot with their first album, Pickin' Up the Pieces. He played solid bass lines and did harmonies on tracks that would go on to define the sound of the genre. The band first performed at the Troubadour Club in LA in November 1968, and Rick Nelson, the former teen idol and adult contemporary artist in the audience that night, was trying to make the transition to rock. Nelson was instantly blown away by Randy, specifically by his bass work, and filed this info away in his brain. Once Poco got close to recording the album, Randy got excited about being part of it. That all changed when the record was in its final mixing stage, when he knew Furay and Messina didn't think much of him. The two leaders did not allow him to participate in any mixing sessions and treated him like another hired hand instead of being a band member. When Randy objected to that treatment and insisted on participating in the creative decisions, things got ugly fast, and he chose to leave Poco before the album was even released. Furay and Messina decided to take Randy's face off of the album cover painting while putting a dog in its place. This showed how disposable they thought Randy was. Just like that, he was out of work again, and he started to question whether he made the right choice to leave his hometown. He was ready to give up his musical dreams when Rick Nelson reached out to him. Rick Nelson had remembered his outstanding performance and wanted him to be his bassist. The interesting part was that he wanted to bring some of his former bandmates from the poor, including Alan Kemp, who was a guitarist and a drummer called Pat Shanahan. In April 1969, Randy decided to join Rick and his band, and suddenly his career was back on track and moving faster than he had ever previously imagined. The two albums he played on were going to be used by the Stone Canyon Band for their tour documentary of 1969. He learned how to present himself in front of a large audience for a good cause. He helped produce the live album of the band, in concert, at the Troubadour 1969, showing he could do other things too. Randy developed a reputation as a reliable session musician who played bass on several tracks for artists during this period. These included James Taylor's breakthrough album Sweet Baby James and Waylon Jennings' Singer of Sad Songs. Due to his capacity to play a variety of musical styles, he became valuable to the studio, and the additional income from sessions helped him support his growing family back in Nebraska. Due to constant touring and spending time apart from Jennifer and their kids, Randy was becoming exhausted and homesick by the spring of 1970. Jennifer was having twins, and she wanted her husband home badly. Randy decided to leave the Stone Canyon Band. He went back to Nebraska. During the day, he worked at the John Deere tractor dealer in Scottsbluff. At night, he played with a band called Gold Rush. For a moment, it seemed Randy Meisner was going to give up everything and settle into the small-town California musician life. The music in his blood would not let him rest. Before long, Rick Nelson was calling. In the fall of 1970, Meisner returned to Los Angeles for another go-around. The early success of the Eagles. In June 1971, a call from producer John Boylan asking Randy Meisner to fill in on bass for Linda Ronstadt's gig at Chuck's Cellar in Los Altos, California, proved to be the opportunity that would change his life. When Randy came for rehearsals, he found out that Ronstadt's other backing musicians were guitarist Glenn Frey and drummer Don Henley, two ambitious young guys who were sick of being backup players and eager to form their own band. Randy sensed a chemistry between Frey, Henley, and himself during those performances. He wasn't surprised when, after the final show, Linda suggested they get Bernie Leadon together and form a group of their own. In September 1971, Randy Meisner, Don Henley, Glenn Frey, and Bernie Leadon officially became the Eagles with the approval of Linda Ronstadt, who was the manager of the singer. The group joined David Geffen's new label, Asylum Records, and immediately began work on their debut album. It was perceptible early on that this was not just any struggling group looking to make it in LA. The musicians of Fatal Vision had all played in one or another band before and had paid their dues, which had instilled them with the necessary professionalism and musical sophistication, lacking in countless other hopefuls on the Sunset Strip. The Eagles released their self-titled debut album in 1972, announcing the arrival of a major new force on the rock music scene. The Eagles had released an album that contained "Take It Easy." This song went on to become a classic and reached number 12 on the charts. It also introduced millions of fans to the band's signature sound that featured tight harmony, country rock, and lyrics steeped in Southern California life. Randy did the bass and vocals throughout the album. Randy wrote and sang lead on "Tryin'," a beautiful song. It was a wonderful Randy song with great vocals. Even though he was quieter and more reserved than Frey and Henley, Randy was vital to the band and their sound. The Eagles' second album, which came out in 1973, would find the band expanding their reach with a concept record. The Eagles' Western-themed conceptual album did not yield any big hit singles. However, it established them as serious artists who wanted to make something more important than just radio-friendly rock music. Randy sang lead on a song titled "Certain Kind of Fool" and added his signature harmonies throughout the record, proving again his harmony was magic. In interviews at that time, Randy seemed pleased and thankful to be part of such a successful group. But for those closest to him, signs of the discomfort that would later drive him out were clear. "On the Border" and "One of These Nights" were the band's third and fourth albums and indicated a transition towards a harder, rock-oriented sound. This was especially the case after the addition of guitarist Don Felder. Randy pitched into the writing of yet another song. In fact, he wrote and sang "Is It True" on the Border. Plus, he performed on the title track, too. This is where you can hear Randy laying down the bass while Henley pummeled drums. The song "One of These Nights," which was released in 1975, would be the start of Randy Meisner's bouts of glory and greatest torment. The song "Take It to the Limit" is another soaring ballad co-written by Randy, Henley, and Frey. Furthermore, Randy's lead vocal on the track is nothing short of breathtaking. "Take It to the Limit" hit number 4 on the Billboard charts. The Eagles performed the song live every night during the Hotel California tour and became a fan favorite. When Randy took to the microphone and hit those unbelievably high notes in the last chorus, audiences went crazy. To Randy, who was painfully bashful and did not like being in the spotlight, singing "Take It to the Limit" every night became an increasing source of agony. His bandmates demanded perfection, night after night, and having to deliver those notes in front of thousands of screaming fans was damaging his confidence. It was also damaging his health. How did everything go downhill? The Hotel California era and growing tensions. In 1976, the Eagles got together in the studio and recorded the album Hotel California, which became their masterpiece. The band's second album showcased a more complicated blend of forms alongside tougher sounds, while Walsh's presence gave the tracks a darker lyrical tone, with guitar work taking center stage and kicked the range further up. Randy helped with the album. He wrote and sang "Try and Love Again," a song that closes the album. He was also the only singer on it. While Hotel California earned legendary status and was selling a few million copies, with the most successful song and the biggest American rock concert since Woodstock, Randy Meisner was falling apart. The pressures of being part of one of the world's biggest bands must have been too much for Randy's shy, gentle personality. Over the course of their career, the Eagles had grown from a bunch of friends who made music together to a multi-million-dollar business with managers, lawyers, and record executives making the decisions. Glenn Frey and Don Henley had become the clear leaders of the band, and they ran the operation with an iron fist, conveying that their way was the only way. Randy was content to let others decide things, but now Randy was feeling increasingly sidelined and treated like an employee rather than a founding member of the band. During this time, Randy's personal life was also falling apart, making him feel anxious and unhappy. Randy's first marriage to Jennifer was falling apart after almost 15 years together. The singer was caught between life on the road and the 3 children he has with that woman, Dana, Heather, and Eric. Stress had caused him painful stomach ulcers. Also, he was increasingly having trouble hitting the high notes on Take It to the Limit, the song audiences demanded to hear every single night. Randy started to tell Frey and Henley he needed to drop the song for a while, but they did not comply. They insisted the fans expect it, and the show must go on, no matter how Randy feels. On a hot night in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the summer of 1977, during the Hotel California tour, the breaking point arrived. Randy was sick with the flu, his voice was shot, and his stomach ulcers were causing him severe pain. As the band readied to start their 3rd encore, Randy said no when Glenn Frey asked him to perform Take It to the Limit once again. The crowd was given 2 encores, but Randy knew that his beaten-up voice was not going to hit those notes again. After the show, Frey was angry, and there was an argument backstage. Frey said to Randy that he let the fans down, and Randy said his health was more important than the audience's expectations. Randy later said that the fight turned physical. It was at this stage that he lost his cool and threw the first punch at Frey. Randy had always avoided conflict and considered himself easy to get along with. His violent behavior was totally out of character and a sign that he truly was desperate and feeling cornered. After that punch, they never forgave him, and the environment in the Eagles festered and became unbearable. Randy was aware that he could no longer cope. After a concert on September 3, 1977, at East Troy, Wisconsin, he played his last show with the Eagles, then went back to Nebraska to be with his family. The Eagles hired Timothy B. Schmit to replace Randy. Schmit was the bassist who had earlier lost the Poco audition to Randy. Schmit had also replaced Randy in Poco when Randy left to join Rick Nelson's band. It was a wacky sort of circular symmetry that neither man would have guessed. In September 1977, Randy officially left the band. He was tired. Randy told the press that he chose sanity over the cash. He said that the money could be tripled by staying in the band. Sanity and the family are more valuable than money, fame, and fortune. For Randy Meisner, the Eagle dream was becoming a nightmare he could not wait to escape. But little did he know that more problems were cooking his way. Marriage to Lana Ray and personal challenges. In 1984, Randy Meisner, a musician and performer, met Lana Ray Beauclair. At that time, she was working as a cocktail waitress at a nightclub in Encino, Los Angeles. Randy and Lana started dating that year, even though they were from different backgrounds and circumstances. After being together for 12 years, Randy and Lana married in November 1996. And for a time, it seemed like Randy, who had been struggling to find a companion since his divorce from Jennifer in 1981, would have better luck with this marriage. Lana would be Randy's partner and protector, helping him navigate the challenges as a former rock star trying to maintain his dignity and independence. However, Randy experienced increasing health issues and personal problems that put an incredible strain on his marriage and quality of life in later years. He struggled with alcoholism and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a mental health disorder that affects mood and could leave him feeling like he was on a very high peak of a mountain or in a very low depth of a valley. His kids from the first marriage worried about his health and ability to make good decisions, so they requested a conservatorship over their father in 2015, claiming that he was mistreated and that his mental state made him vulnerable to exploitation. Randy objected very much to his children controlling his life. He said he was fine and did not need anyone to control him. The court case showed how much meanness there was in the family. Randy Meisner's children were on one side, while the other was Lana Meisner. Both of them claimed best interest for Randy. In July 2015, a judge ruled to place Randy under court supervision. They found his bipolar disorder and substance abuse history created some risk of poor decision-making. The setup was meant to safeguard Randy while permitting him to live as independently as possible. However, it was a humiliating setback for a man who had once commanded stages with thousands of adoring human fans. During this time, Randy continued to show up from time to time. Though he struggled with addiction, the music continued to matter. In October 2020, he appeared via video callback and sang backing vocals with Richie Fure's band on the Poco song "Pickin' Up the Pieces." This was a nostalgic reference to his early days as a professional artist. The following month, he was a special guest on Joe Walsh's old-fashioned rock and roll radio show with his friend and former Eagles bandmate. Walsh reminisced about fun times together and songs they wrote together. These appearances showed that Randy still had warm ties with some former Eagles, even if the Eagles did not still maintain ties to Randy. On the evening of March 6, 2016, the tragic escalation of earlier events would bring unimaginable disaster into Randy's life. After years of conflict that had brought police to their Studio City home on numerous occasions, Randy and Lana's relationship came to a breaking point that culminated with a horrific nightmare and loss. Which aspect of Randy Meisner's story touched you the most? Was it his struggle to balance fame with his desire for a simple life, or his treatment by the Eagles after his departure, or simply the beautiful music he left behind? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.